This is the most secure operating system in the world, and I hate it. This is Qubes OS. It says it's a reasonably secure OS, which is kind of funny. It's so paranoid it won't even call itself the most secure. That's how secure it is. It assumes that nothing is secure unless you unplug the internet, never write anything down, never say anything, never think anything, and finally you have privacy. But seriously, Qubes OS is really secure, and it works with the assumption that you're going to get hacked, and that all software inherently contains bugs or flaws that will be exploited. They're not wrong. And here's how they deal with that cold hard truth. Confine, control, and contain the damage. Now I set this up and I'm not gonna lie, it's a pain. And I want you to share in my pain. I'm gonna walk you through how to set this up inside a VM or on a physical computer, and we can suffer together. But seriously, it's actually really fun to set up, and the way it works is fascinating. It's basically a Type 1 hypervisor OS. So get your coffee ready. Let's dive into how Qubes OS works, and let's also try to make it work. Now I would not be able to do any of this stuff if it weren't for our sponsor, IT Pro by ACI Learning. They helped me learn the Linux skills I need to do stuff like this. We'll talk more about them here in a moment. Now Qubes OS, it's nuts. Everything is run out of these securely isolated compartments. They're kind of like little pods or cubes. Now get used to that word. I'm gonna be saying it a lot. In fact, video editor, throw up a counter. Let's play your favorite drinking game. And of course I'm talking about coffee. Every time I say cubes, take a sip. You're about to be so awake and alert and beneficial to society, it's gonna be awesome. Now whenever you wanna do anything on your Qubes computer, you'll first decide who you wanna be. Which you are you right now? Check this out. Let's say you wanna be work you. So I'll choose my work cube, and I'll launch Firefox. And right now, something amazing is happening. In an isolated environment, a little isolated cube is being spun up, and this is essentially a virtual machine. Notice it is taking a while because it's literally doing that. There it is. So I have my web browser, I might launch my file manager, also in my work cube, and this cube is isolated from everything else on your computer. Nothing can touch it. Whatever you do for work stays in that work cube. At the same time, you could decide to be another you, maybe the weird you. So you'll launch your weird cube and your weird Firefox, and in this moment, another virtual machine, an isolated cube is being spun up. I even get like a little status up here, cube weird has started, and I also might want to launch my Whonix cube, which contains my Tor browser, and it will securely connect me to Tor. Now it might seem like these apps are running side by side, but they're not. Each of them are in their own secure, isolated compartment, a cube, a virtual machine essentially, and they're protected. So the dark web you doesn't mess up the weird you, and neither of them touch the work you. You're essentially running apps on different computers all in one place. It's magic. And this magic is virtualization. It always is. Oh, and notice real quick, each one of these is color coded. So you see that the work is both in blue, Whonix is yellow, weird is red, so you know which cube you're interacting with. Easy to spot. Now remember when I said that Qubes OS essentially is a Type 1 hypervisor OS? I was serious. Qubes uses Xen-based virtualization, which is based on the Xen project hypervisor, an open source Type 1 hypervisor. And if all these words kind of scare you, like virtual machines, hypervisor, what is that? I've got a video right here, and I'll show you all about it. It's magic, you don't want to miss it if you don't understand what this is. Now, no matter where you're at with Linux, noob or expert, IT Pro by ACI Learning has the courses and certification training you need to become awesome. They have your back with Linux essentials. And trust me, when you're messing with Qubes or any other kind of Linux operating system, it's helpful to know the basics, laying a good foundation. You don't want to skip that. And if you want to turn your Linux skills into a job, getting a certification like the CompTIA Linux Plus, LPIC 2, throwing in some Red Hat certifications, that's gonna make you awesome. And it's not just Linux, they have all the other stuff too. Pretty much whatever you wanna learn in IT, they have it. From A+ to cloud to hacking. You've got practice tests to help you prepare for your exams, and they have labs to help you put that knowledge to practice, to real world skills. So if you wanna learn IT like me, check it out, link below. And if you use my code NetworkChuck, you'll get 30% off forever. Now we're about to jump into the install, how to install on a physical computer and in a VM. If you wanna jump straight to that, check the timestamps. But first, let's talk more about Qubes. Now the Qubes we've launched so far here on my system, these are called app cubes. And there are different types of cubes, that's why I'm telling you this right now. The app cubes are for applications, things you might launch and use. Now every app cube is based on what's called a template cube, which consists of a base OS and a bunch of apps you might want to commonly have across various app cubes. So for example, if I look here, I'm gonna jump into what's called my Qube Manager. Qube Tools, Qube Manager. So here you can see we have a list of our cubes, but also the templates. Like right here, we have our Whonix templates. And we can tell that because right here in the template column, it's labeled as a template VM. Over here we have our Fedora template, and here we have our Debian 11 template. Notice each one of these is a different OS, and all of our apps will use various templates. See, most of our stuff is actually using Fedora, but I could change that right here, change my personal to use the Debian 11, and changed. And if we were to jump into any of these templates, let's say Debian 11, and go to settings, we could change a lot of stuff about these, from firewall rules to the devices it's allowed to use, and of course the applications. Right now it's using Files, Firefox, and Terminal. We can give it Thunderbird. Let's give it Thunderbird. There you go. Apply. Okay, and now every qube that uses that template will now have Thunderbird. Now what's cool about templates is that we can maintain and update our core applications in one place, the template, and then every other qube will automatically have an updated version of, let's say Firefox. But hold up, let's say something bad happens. Maybe our weird qube gets hacked. It gets a virus. Something's going on. What do? We don't do anything. It's isolated to that one qube, so it won't touch our Whonix qube or our work qube, and it won't even touch the template. The qubes themselves, the app qubes, cannot interfere, change, modify at all the original template. So we're safe. Shoot, that thing gets infected, just shut it down, no worries. Now here are the coolest qubes I think there are. I told you, there's so many qubes. We have a thing called service qubes. Literally everything on this OS is isolated, controlled, and that includes things like USB devices. That would be its own qube. Network. A network connection will be given via a system qube or a service qube. And you can actually see them right now in our qube manager we still have up. We've got sys USB, sys net, sys firewall. And if I look at my personal qube and I edit those settings, if I go to network here, I can choose which network qube it'll use. Right now by default it's using the sys firewall, which as it might sound like is a firewall qube meant to prevent things from coming in. Or you can go straight sysnet with limited firewall rules, or connected to the Tor network, sys Whonix. So it's just crazy that the control of like USB devices and the control of networking devices is also isolated. It's like a compartment, and we just kind of like Legos connect them to whatever service we need or disconnect. Two more qubes you want to know about. One we're not really going to see very much. It's called the management qube. It does a lot of management, a lot of background stuff. But the most important qube, our last one we're going to talk about, is DOM0. He is our admin qube, the most precious qube. It's the master, it's the root user. Kind of. It manages all the other qubes and pretty much the entire system. It's the most trusted, and if it were ever compromised, pack your bags. You're going home. You're done. Set your computer on fire, walk away. That's why Qubes OS treats DOM0, the admin qube, like Smeagol treats the Ring of Power. It's as precious. Nothing can touch it. Precious! DOM0 has no internet connection, and it should only be worried about running the desktop environment and the Windows Manager. That's it. You shouldn't use it for anything. Now we could launch a terminal in DOM0. So if I went to my app launcher here and I launched just the terminal, I could tell at the top of the terminal it says DOM0. That's where I'm at. Ping anything. I got nothing. It's isolated. And also at the top here, top right in our tray, we can see all our running qubes. And we can do things like run a quick terminal, shut them down, restart. We can see DOM running at the top and seeing how much resources each qube is using. I know you want to try it. This looks cool, right? It looks fun. Even if you don't want to use it as your main OS and you're not as paranoid as all the big people we know who use it like Edward Snowden and others. It's just fun to play with. So let's do that right now. Now, whether you're installing Qubes OS on a physical computer, bare metal, or a virtual machine, they have the same system requirements. And it's a lot. Don't let it stress you out, or let it, I don't know. For CPU, you'll definitely want a 64-bit CPU, fairly modern, and it needs something called Intel VT-X enabled, which is their virtualization technology, and that's with EPT. It's not important what all these stand for, just know you need to have this enabled and available. For AMD, it's called AMD-V with RVI, and it will also need something called IOMMU, which is normally just baked into the virtualization settings. So if you enable those two options for whatever processor you have, this will normally just kind of be there. If you have issues, and it's probably not there. And we are running out of room, so I'm gonna bring it right over here. For memory, this is where it gets kind of painful. Minimum 6 gigs of RAM. Recommended 16. Now when you're installing on a physical computer or bare metal, most laptops or computers have 8 to 16 gigs of RAM, not a problem most of the time. You definitely want 16 though, trust me. But as a virtual machine, your computer needs 16 gigs of RAM extra. Now I'm running 64 here, I can do that. Just keep that in mind if you want to run it in a VM like I'm about to show you, you'll need a lot of extra RAM. As far as storage, this is our last requirement. Minimum is 32 gigs. Recommended is 128. Now I will say this, when setting up the virtual machine, I had to do 128. It did not work with anything else, so keep that in mind. You'll need a ton of RAM and 128 gigs of extra storage to run this in a virtual machine on your computer right now. Now I gotta say this, officially Qubes does not support running inside a virtual machine. They're like, don't do it. They really only support installing it on bare metal, and they have a few hardware devices that they actually officially approve, things I've never heard of. But I installed it on this, actually let me go get it. I installed it on this ROG laptop, and so I didn't have to overwrite the existing operating system. I installed it onto a portable SSD, which you can do. So if I didn't scare you away, let's install Qubes right now. The first thing we'll do is download the Qubes ISO. I'll have a link for that below, and we'll download the stable release here. So the first one's like a testing release. I don't want to help them test anything right now, so I'm gonna download the official 4.1.2 release. This guy right here, and download it. Now, if you're gonna install this in a virtual machine, that's all you gotta do. If you're gonna install this on physical hardware, like this laptop here, you're gonna wanna write that to a USB stick. which I was doing this like I had one in my hand. I'll be right back. So we'll grab our USB drive here, plug it in, and to write this to the USB stick, we're gonna use a tool called Rufus. I love that it's called Rufus. It's just fun. Just gonna download the portable version because I don't like installing things. And here in Rufus, we're gonna do one very important thing. So first, we're gonna, of course, select our ISO, or select our disk first. Make sure you are not overwriting anything. I got my 16 gig USB. I'll select my ISO, Qubes 412. I'm gonna leave everything as default, but the important thing comes here. I'll click Start and say Write in DD image mode. It will not work any other way. So just click on OK, and it's like, okay, we're gonna erase everything. I'm like, cool, we're good. I know. And let it do its thing. Perfect time for a coffee break. NetworkChuck.coffee. Now, while that's writing, let's spend some time talking about the virtual machine people. Hi, let's get this set up. Now, I tested out VirtualBox, didn't work. I don't think it fully supports IOMMU, whatever the case, it was a pain. But what did work, and it's still free, is VMware Workstation Player. It's free to download, I'll have a link below, and it's actually kind of easy to get set up. I wish I would have started with this from the beginning, but I did all the hard stuff so you don't have to. So download VMware Workstation Player, get that installed. And just know, this is a Type 2 hypervisor. So what's kind of funny here is we're gonna be installing Qubes OS, which is essentially a Type 1 hypervisor, onto a Type 2 hypervisor, which is weird. And what we're gonna be doing is something called nested virtualization, where we're gonna be, first of all, virtualizing our OS by creating Qubes. And then Qubes will be virtualizing its OS by creating the individual Qubes. Nested virtualization. It's kind of magic that we're doing this. I love it. Again, Qubes is like, don't do that. With our ISO downloaded and VMware Workstation installed, let's try it out. Don't worry, physical computer people, we're gonna touch on your stuff here in a second. Here in VMware Workstation 17 Player, I'm gonna click on Playa. Sorry, I did not mean to do that. Just came out. Click on File and New Virtual Machine. We'll then select Installer Disk Image File, or ISO. We're gonna use that. We'll go find it real quick. I'll browse to my Qubes 412 download. Click on Next. You wanna make sure that you have Linux selected and Fedora 64-bit. Fedora is the base OS that Qubes runs off of. It's where DOM0 runs. We'll click on Next. We'll name it Qubes. Just something dumb. Click on Next. And then here is where you're gonna hit a hiccup if you don't do this. 128 gigs for the hard drive. Just do it. It worked for Nike, it works for us. Sorry, that was a lame joke. The dad jokes, I'm telling you, they flow. We'll click on Next, and then one more thing, we're gonna customize the hardware. Remember that the memory requirements are pretty steep. Right now it's like defaulting to 2 gigs. That's not gonna cut it. Minimum, it wants 6. No, I'm gonna do 16. It's hungry, it wants 16, I'm gonna feed it what it wants. You can try 6, I can't vouch for it. Now I'm gonna mosey on over to processors here on the left, just below memory. I'm gonna increase my processors to like 4, so I'll have a good time. And then, very important, I'm going to enable Intel VTX and also IOMMU. Now that is pretty much all I have to change. I'll click on Close, click on Finish. I think it may even start it automatically for us. If it doesn't, we'll just do it ourselves. Yeah, let's go ahead and play. So play virtual machine, or just hit the play icon right here with this virtual machine selected. Ready, set, go. And it is starting. Now you're gonna see this window. It'll invite you to test the media and install, or just install. I'm just gonna jump to install. Install Qubes, hit enter, with that option selected. Keeping in mind in virtual machine, or can't say this today, VMware Workstation 17 Player, hit Control-Alt on your keyboard to get your mouse back, to get it out of that zone. All right, so that's gonna bake for a second. And I'm forewarning you, the Qubes OS install does take a long time. 30 to 45 minutes is what I found. Maybe longer because I just didn't keep track of time, I was just doing other stuff. So get you a fresh cup of coffee, you're on your way. But look, things are happening, that's pretty exciting. Now virtual people, before we move on to our next step, let's jump to physical and get you guys set up. You can see here my Rufus has finished writing my disk. I'm gonna close that out, grab my USB drive, and plug it into my computer. And of course, if you wanna install Qubes on an external SSD or hard drive, make sure you have that ready and plugged in.
This is disgusting.
Now this will vary based on what kind of laptop or hardware you have, but boot into your machine and like press F10, F12, delete to get into your BIOS settings. I'm always just like, I think ROG does delete, I'm not sure. No, it doesn't. What does it do? I'll have to Google it now. See, it's all different. I hate it. Okay, ROG, you have to hold down F2 while rebooting. Okay, whatever, ROG. Ha, there we go. Now here I'm gonna jump into advanced mode by hitting F7. You'll probably wanna get into advanced mode on your BIOS. And there's 2 things you'll want to change in your BIOS to make sure things work correctly. Now here on this laptop, if I scroll over to advanced, there's an option called SVM mode, which I can see right here says enable disable CPU virtualization. I want that enabled. Mine's already enabled, enable yours. It might be Intel V or AMD V. It's all kind of a little bit different, but around those same terms. Search for that. The other setting, and it's pretty annoying, we have to change this. Scrolling over to security or something like security. And when you see secure boot, jump in there. We'll want to, against your best judgment, disable secure boot. Without this disabled, I was not able to boot into my external SSD here once Qubes was installed. Now we'll say this, if you decide to not use Qubes anymore and you want to go back to your OS that's installed in your main desktop, you'll want to re-enable secure boot, otherwise you can't boot back into your stuff. Keep that in mind. It scared me, I almost lost it. So make sure you have secure boot disabled, and then we'll hit save and exit. This should reboot your system, and then you'll want to hit whatever key it is for your OS to boot into the boot options. For ROG, I think it's escape. Yeah, it is. And then I'll choose my USB stick, the one I just installed into my laptop, the one that has Qubes on it. Here, I want to select, let me zoom in on that so you can see it, install Qubes OS. Now for the rest of the install, whether you're doing virtual machine or physical, it's gonna be pretty much the same. Now also keep in mind, if you're installing Qubes inside a virtual machine, your physical machine that you have this Type 2 hypervisor running will also need virtualization enabled in your BIOS. So the same thing we did here on the physical computer installation, make sure you have those settings enabled for your main computer. So I'm gonna continue here on virtual machines. Land. Here we have basic OS options. Choose your language. We're then prompted to select, and it's not obvious, our disk partitioning information. So we'll click on that. We already have the disk we created for this VM selected. If you're doing this on a physical computer, you might have more than one option. For me, I want to choose my Samsung SSD and not the internal hard drive of my computer. And then you'll have the option to encrypt your data. I'm just gonna uncheck that. I don't want to do that right now. Click on done here at the top left. Scroll down just a bit to set a new user account, and then click on begin installation. Okay, we got it complete. And you might be like, okay, I'm about to play with this. Not quite yet. So you'll see what I mean. So now we can just click on reboot system and it will do very much that, reboot the system. And I'm sorry it's so small, I just can't resize it. Now we're almost done. Here, again, it's not crazy obvious, but it wants us to click on this Qubes OS option right here in the middle. Here we can choose what templates we want to have installed. Fedora, Debian 11, Whonix by default. I'll install all three. Actually, you know what, for sake of time, I'll take out Debian. You've got a few more options. And if you want to tinker, you can, but for now, I'm just gonna leave that be. Click on done. And then if you're on player, you're like, okay, how do I start this? What's going on? I don't see, I can't scroll down. The finish button is like just at the bottom right, just out of view, you can't see it. It's really annoying. So if you have this selected, just hit tab twice. Hit enter. I think we should hit the finish button. Yes, okay, so just with that option selected, hitting tab twice, hit enter, it'll finish. It's gonna install these options, which again will take way too long. So I'll see you in a second. I have an impromptu challenge sponsored by IT Pro TV. Are you ready? We'll start with the noob questions. Each question is worth 10 points. Question number 1. Which command is used to view the contents of a directory in Linux? Here's your options. Pause the video. Unpause. The answer, of course, is B, ls. Question number 2. What does sudo or sudo stand for? Pause the video, go. Unpause. The answer is B, super user do. Round 2 intermediate questions. Each question is worth 20 points. Let's see how you do. To monitor real-time system resource usage, which command would you use in Linux? Here's your options. Pause the video. Unpause. The answer is B, top. Question number 2. What would you use to manage services in a systemd based Linux machine? Here's your options. Pause the video. Unpause. The answer is C, systemctl. Round 3, expert level, get your coffee. Are you ready? Question number 1. What is a C group and how does it differ from a namespace in Linux containerization? Here's your options. Pause the video. Unpause. The answer is C. A C group controls system resource allocation to processes, while a namespace provides a layer of isolation between different system resources. Last question, here we go. What is the purpose of the chroot command in Linux? Here's your options. Pause the video. Unpause. The answer is D, to change the apparent root directory for a running process. Whew, how'd you do? Here's the perfect score. What was yours? Comment below.
I want to see your score.
Now after an eternity, my Qubes OS is ready. I'm gonna get logged in. And here we are. Now again, illustrating how secure Qubes OS is, we're having to allow USB interaction with the Don0 Qube, which again is the root, the manager, the boss. Now because I installed the Whonix, I just feel weird when I say that, it's prompting me to say, hey, do you want to connect to Tor all the time for your entire system? This system is being, what does it say, censored? You can do that, but I prefer just to do it myself or run my specific Tor cube. Click on next, blah, blah, blah. Yes, next. It'll do its thing, connecting to the Tor network, setting up relays, you know the drill. If you watched my other videos about running a Tor relay or how to access the dark web securely. Now this is really tiny. I want to change how this looks. Better, still small, but bigger, if that makes sense. And now we're running Qubes. You can add as many Qubes as you want. If you want a banking cube to keep all your banking stuff separated, a research cube with all the apps you might need for that, you can do that. It's really just up to you. They also have, and check this out, disposable cubes, which when you launch anything in these cubes, whatever files you create, things you browse to, when you stop that cube, everything disappears. It's done. Honestly, it was kind of a pain to set up. And it's kind of not the fastest. I mean, it is running virtual machines. Several if you're trying to be very secure, so I get that. But I feel like it could be better. And also there's kind of better options. Like simply running your own virtual machines might be a better option. I can create a virtual machine for specific things I want to do. So I have an Ubuntu machine for maybe banking. I can do these things myself. And that might end up being easier and possibly more secure. If you want to learn more about how to update things and do more cool stuff with Qubes, they got a ton of documentation. There's a pretty strong community. I'm not going to cover that here because I'm going to wipe my hands at this. It's cool, it's powerful, it is the most secure, but I don't care. I'm just going to still use Windows and Linux and Mac, but in a different way. I'll catch you guys next time.
Wow.